All right, so I appreciate you joining us today, my man, and I think we go back way back to Northwest. I
Yeah,
know you got Alvin on there, but I
it's
used to call
Ray.
you Ray.
Yeah, it's Ray. It's what everybody call me. My phone so used to everybody calling me Alvin now, so it just automatically put it in there.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, good deal, man. And necessarily the goal of this is to look at fathers that play football and and move into fatherhood. Like, yeah, I know Ray. We played football at Northwest. I think that was my first time being introduced to the school you played at, which was North Panola.
No, no, yeah.
Yeah. The Cougars.
Yeah, the opposite of Sapano.
Opposite of South Panola, yeah. And it's the funny thing about it is that I was introduced to both at the same time, and that was a small guy coming from Coffeyville. That was
Yeah, man.
yeah. So I want to bring you on. Been thinking about it. I wanted to bring on people I play football with, and just to share the story about that journey from being playing football and becoming when we talk about fatherhood. You went on after Northwest to continue your career. So if you can kind of share a little bit about after your time leaving Northwest, and then what did you do after that? We don't know what's up with the internet, but we're going to make this thing happen. So first thing I want to ask you is, as you reflecting on your journey, can you share like a pivotal moment that profoundly altered your course of your life?
Yeah. Well, pivotal moment for me was, after I left Northwest, I went to Jacksonville State. I had to take a college algebra course that to be eligible at Jacksonville State that I was waiting to come back from Mississippi State.
Hmm.
And it didn't come back until maybe September when they got
Oh,
finished with it. And the season had started, man. I was depressed. I'm there. I can't play. I went through camp, just waiting on it to get done. And then my uncle died. And that was the guy. He had cancer, but he was the guy that kind of helped my dad and my grandma raise me. My dad uh, was a coach. He was off, gone here and there, and my grandmother was raising me. So, but my uncle was there to bring her to all the games at Northwest, and he was at every game in while I was in Northwest. And he passed of cancer on September 7th, and I came home, and then September 11th happened.
hmm.
And I couldn't go back to school because I was at home when he passed. September 11th happened, and I couldn't go back to school at the time, because of that. And that altered my whole life. At the time, I had no idea that that was happening in that way,
Hmm.
but it kept me at home longer than I should have been, and I made me feel homesick from being in Alabama, made me want to stay home. So when I went back, I was there for maybe a month, and I came back. I withdrew from school, and it altered my whole life. And what it did was, I had never been without football.
uh,
I had never had any adversity towards football, or really no whole lot of adversity. Like as an adult, I'm a young adult. I've never had any adversity, and so I left school. I found myself at home. I wasn't doing much, but I was subbing at the school and I was helping them with the football team. And I was, they were trying to get me to come back to Jacksonville State. And, I didn't want to go back. It kind of was a culture shock for me. I went to all black high school growing up, and then go to a school that was 90% white. It just was different for me. And then the coaches started calling back the smaller schools because I was a bounce back player. So I ended up going to Albany State, and what made my life change because of that. Because of all those things that happened to me, uh, it made me basically at the moment I was seeing it selling it for Albany State, but I that changed my life. I ended up meeting people that helped me out even now today, and it forced me to move away farther from my hometown, farther from my
Yeah.
help, and it made me grow up. It made me grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can relate to that. Because I think once we went to Northwest, a lot of us, some got the privilege to stay in state, but a lot of us went off.
Right.
And as I hear your story, man, gosh, I didn't know the exact story, and I'm sure there's more to it, but hearing the part that you shared so far, going off and playing outside of Mississippi, man, you have to grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. No help. Nobody there. No shoulders to cry on. No people to bail you out. You stuck. You on your own.
Uh, uh, yeah. So as we look at that, you talk about that pivotal moment where someone very close in your life, um, passes away, and we talk about help, especially in these pivotal years of college, because in high school we're used to it, and in
Right.
college, like, we're leaning towards it, and then you're looking like, what do I lean on at that point? Like, it becomes that time where we do grow up. So when you look at this moment, how do you see when we talk about fatherhood, how did that reshape your perspective or your approach to life? When you look at those moments in college, and I'm sure you got other moments after you uh, went into your professional career, how did that reshape you as a father later on?
Well, what it did for me, I believe I had a child younger because I didn't have my first child until I was 33. So I didn't have well, I only have one, but I got some step kids.
Mhm.
So um when I was younger, especially as a freshman at Northwest and a sophomore and a junior and stuff like that, I was selfish, as far as meaning as it was all about me. And I felt, maybe my life would have been a little different if I did have a child early on, because it would have settled me down a little bit more. Maybe I wouldn't have left Jacksonville State. I don't know. But I think that was for the best. They helped me out. But when I had my child, it changed my outlook on the necessity, what's more important, what I need to do, what I need to handle. That changed everything once I had her. Because before I had her, I didn't want kids right away because I was chasing my NFL dreams. And then, once I found arena football and they was taking care of me and I was all over the world and all over the country, I didn't want anything to stop, stop that. And I felt like a child and a wife and a family, those would become priorities for me. And I didn't want those priorities at the time because me, myself, and football was my priority.
Right.
So yeah, so when I had my daughter, the priorities switched, it changed, you know.
Yeah. So it's unique to hear because I think this is a lot of football players' um, statements. They may not say it out loud,
Hmm.
but may act it out. When we talk about, I've devoted myself to football,
Right.
and if there's anything else that's in the way of that, um, we know it. We can listen to it and hear it, but we know football is a job, and it's at a point
Right.
now. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're truly devoted to it, like
Hmm.
it's a job. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Uh, when it came to me playing the game, you know, just like if anybody was to go work in a factory or become a teacher, like I fill out W-2. I got to get a check.
right.
This is the best thing that I can do to bring money in for me and what I want to do in my life. And I got paid good money to do it.
Yeah,
And so, you know, I wanted to do whatever I can to keep that because playing football for me wasn't like a job. You know, I was okay getting up in the morning and being in meetings at 7 o'clock. I was okay getting up in the morning all season, working out, getting ready for the season. I was okay with that because, you know, that's not a job for me. It's a way of life because we've been doing it since we were kids. So, you know, that's the job I wanted to keep for as long as I could.
And it's interesting to hear too when you talk about fatherhood. It doesn't matter when it started, but you understood the importance of shifting priorities because a family is one thing, as you talked about, waking up in the morning to go to meetings, working out. Like you can kind of control some of those things. You have somewhat of control, but when you start talking about children,
Yeah. Yeah, no control. Every day is different.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the unique thing about it. Yeah, yeah. So you spoke about some challenges early on when you talked about going to Jacksonville State and the racial change of going to majority black and pretty much Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Well, because we were split a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was still majority black in my opinion.
Right.
Um, so what are some of those? What advice would you give people that's listening during those challenging times? How did you make it through it? What are some advice to help them to be impactful, learn from your lessons, and to walk forward as they're listening?
Well, during that time, I learned that, you know, you can't let other people's fears become yours.
Mm,
And everybody, people will say, I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do that. And you're a kid, you're younger, you listen, you know. Even adults be like, well, if I was you, you can come on back and go to such and such school closer by the house, or all that kind of stuff. It becomes your fears. So
yeah,
everybody got an opinion about it, and even from playing uh, ball or whatnot. Yeah, the NFL didn't work out. People like, you need to come back, get a job. They gonna hire you at North Panola. Or, you can do this and do that. But that's everyone else's fears. They're scared to leave or they're scared to step out on faith and do what the heart says to do and what comfortable for you yourself, what you want to do. So you tend to listen to other people, and that happened early on. You know, that happened. Where I might wanted to try something and do something, but I listened to everybody basically talk about what they wouldn't do, and so it made me timid about what I wouldn't do. So what I finally did, I stepped out on faith. And like I say, by leaving, it made me grow up. By going to Albany State, it made me grow up. I was 8 hours away. I couldn't just go home like that.
right,
and
right.
and so I leaned back on, that with pretty much everything. If I wanted to um, take a job somewhere after I left college, if I wanted to, I have no issue moving to California. I have no issue moving to New York because that broke my fear away from being away from the known.
So man, that's crucial. It's almost like when you talk about not letting somebody else's fears become your own. That I think that's a common experience among football players or just athletes in general. And it's not talked about because you're trying to get advice on what's this next step, and then people say what they wouldn't do. Man, you ain't been in my spot. you, you, you know,
Right,
you know, you have an idea, but it's totally different when you talk about that next level of okay, do I take this scholarship here? Does it really benefit me? Is it going to take me to where I'm trying to get to? Or
Mm-hmm.
is this kind of a training ground to get me where I need to be? Because what I've learned is that, like you spoke about earlier, man, it's about relationships. I've built
Right,
so many relationships that I need them. I need them
right,
now.
right. And I tell my students now because I teach dual enrollment, so at Rosefort, and I tell them now all the time, like, yes, college is there for you to get your education, but for me, I would say college is 40% education and 60% networking. You gonna meet people. I make them I make them watch um what's the name of the movie with Social Network. We watch Social Network the first week of class when we walk in because I want them to understand like Facebook started with some guys that didn't graduate. They didn't
Right,
graduate.
right,
They went to school, they met each other. They started some stuff playing around. That's networking. You meet people that you never think you'll meet, and y'all put into play with each other, and you things happen. These people are in your lives for certain reasons. I've had numerous of job offers to me that I got through people that I knew from college.
right.
You know, so it's networking. You're gonna learn on the way, but you meet a lot of people that can help you.
Oh, definitely for sure, man. That's a conversation within itself of the network you build
Mhm.
is yeah, I'm thinking about it as I'm thinking about you when you were talking. I'm thinking about this. I started this podcast with some gentlemen that I were roommates with that I went to college with,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's how
We're
it
on this
started.
podcast right now because we went to college together.
Right.
Right.
So it's good to hear that in that class, a dual enrollment class, to give them a different perspective of getting that education, what you said, 40%, but
Yeah.
understanding the network is huge. 60%,
Right.
yeah, yeah, that ratio is I can feel it. So I've heard several life changing situations that you've had.
Mhm.
You've talked about with your daughter and how that changed, your priorities. Again, let's drop some tips for those that are listening, even though you're dropping them now, because that networking is. I'm gonna leave it alone, but that's a whole conversation. But what are some tips for those that are listening, whatever stage they're at, if they're in high school, if they've graduated from college, they're in college, whatever stage, if they're at our ages or whatever it is, drop some wisdom. This is your opportunity. Go ahead and drop some wisdom.
Well, I really believe in doing what makes you happy. You know, because when you're not happy with something, yeah, you're gonna do it, but you're not gonna put 100% effort in it.
Yeah,
I understand people have situations where they have to get things done, but if you can have any inkling, any moment where you can step out and say devote a day or 2 days to something that you eventually want to do that you love
right.
and you put into it, like if you just it's like saving for me, it's like a saving account. If I want to be a writer, yeah, I can't write full time. I ain't paying right now.
Yeah,
But maybe Saturday morning and play with it, mess with it, do something with it every Saturday until you can get to the point to where, all right, now maybe I got a whole book together. I can throw it out there and let's see what it hit. I just a lot of people I know give up so fast on what they want to do because of life. I understand life hits people,
yeah,
but if you only get one of them, you
yeah.
only get one life. And I got uncles that worked in factories for 40 years and they tell me all the time I didn't accomplish the thing I want to do because I was so busy trying to work, and I'm not happy that the life I put out there. And
Mm,
that's what I just tell people. I just feel like I understand you have to work, but you also have one life, and you have to make sure that you accomplish some of the things that you want to do, set goals, and try to do the things that you want to do, not the things that you have to do all the time.
Man, that's good because we typically avoid, we typically do what we got to do, but never talk about what we really want to do
Right.
because we
I lost your volume. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
so yeah, you made a very important point of talking about for men in general, we typically do what we need to do,
Right.
make sure we provide, but there are times where we really don't pursue what our really our heart desires.
Right.
And you made a excellent point on how, for your uncles, that was some wisdom of saying, you know what, I did what I had to do, but if you asked me if I did what I really wanted to do, I didn't.
Yeah. Right. You gotta. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in we do have to provide, and you have to understand you do have to provide. We get so caught up in that we don't think about you can provide your way as well, but you might have slowly don't be scared. I lot of people scared to step out. They're scared that if I want to be a farmer and I quit working at this school, I ain't gonna be able to make the money that I was making. But if you don't do it, you'll never know because somebody doing it, somebody farming tomatoes coming from somewhere, somebody making some money off of it.
So yeah, to hear about those that have been in your life telling you about their experiences, um, that's what I consider wisdom. And to hear, and I want to wrap back around to something that you said. We're talking about not being afraid to pursue things that you enjoy to do. You talked about that writing piece, man, where it could be the Saturday mornings where you're just putting in time and time and
Mm-hmm.
time. And it may not be a whole week, but you're just continuously putting in time. So it's really going back to like we did with sports.
Right.
So we're putting in that time here, there, and trying to get better at certain parts of our game. And we still can apply that same concept to life.
Right. Yeah. I try to. I try. For me, it's either way for me to remember things, and either way for me to get things done. I try to structure my life around what I'm used to. The schedule that we have as an athlete. I
Mm,
give my own self a schedule. All right, at 9 I gotta get up and wash dishes. At 10 I gotta get up and clean the bathroom out. At 11 I need to get. That's how I try to. That's the only way that I can stay organized to get stuff done. Because that started for us in high school, middle school schedules.
right. And think about that, man. You sparking so many thoughts, man. Um, I had the opportunity to speak back to the 4-year college I went to. And one of the things that I was reminded of was my college head coach. He was a stickler for time, man. Like you would sit out a game if you weren't on time. So he would
Yeah,
always say, if we meet it, if we meet at 7 or we meet at 10 o'clock, you're late. You need to be here at 9:45, 9:50. That stuck with me, and it's hard for me to show up at a place if I'm supposed to be there at 10.
and you late.
I'm there early. It's hard.
Yeah,
Like I feel like I'm late. So
you give
yeah,
you all kind of anxiety. I have all kind of anxiety when I'm about to be late.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's just thinking about that. Like and it was sometimes like the work that I do now, man. Sometimes I arrive an hour early, and it's like I know I'm not supposed to be here this early, but it's just like ingrained in my mind.
yeah,
I know I'm not gonna run sprints. I'm not gonna run up. I'm not gonna have up downs, but it's just like this is a part of life. And I'm happy you shared that on how to approach time management.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on, and we battled through all the things we had today. But you've shared some helpful tips that we need to hear as men, as former football players that became fathers. Our role as a father is important. Um,
Yeah.
so, is there anything else you would like to share before we kind of close out?
Yeah. I would just like to say, we all we're all once a football player, you're always a football player. It never leaves you. You can't do what you do no more. We all think mentally that we can. You tell us we can go out there and still run a 4-4, we feel like. And no, we can't. But it was so
No.
competitive and then we feel like we can always do whatever. And um, for me, after retirement, and I don't mean to, go in and long, but for me after retirement, it's tough. It's tough when you stop playing
Yeah.
something, that you've been doing so long. And, I was looking for a purpose, like other than just work, because work is not your purpose. I was looking for something that got me going. And, and life can be depressing sometimes, especially life after football. And,
Yeah.
you love playing the sport, you love playing the game, you can't do it no more. And I got a couple teammates and friends that I know now that are going through that depression, going through that withdrawal, or the competitiveness, and I just want to say to the ones that are going through that, man, find you something to do, find a hobby, find something that can give you that adrenaline that you got from playing, and it helps a lot. You know, I found a few things that help me. Like for example, coaching is my adrenaline. I
Hmm.
don't, being a school teacher, that's not something necessarily I love to do. I'm gonna be honest, but I love to coach. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? That's my
Yeah.
adrenaline. That makes me feel like I'm right back there on the field again. And I think that helped me with my mental. Because
Yeah.
mental health is very important. Because it was times before where, man, I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I was gonna do. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and just if you find a great hobby, you you find something that get your adrenaline going, get in it, indulge yourself in it, and it'll make you come out of that football depression so fast because it'll give you that same kind of appetite, you know. And I want to leave that with people because, like I say, I got a bunch of teammates that lost. They don't know
Right.
where to go, what to do, where to turn. You know.
That's good. We want to follow up with that though, because that yeah, I'm gonna put a comma there, but we got to follow up with that. That's super important because, like you're saying a couple of friends, a couple of teammates, but it's
Right?
a whole nation of people that's
Yeah.
struggling.
They're struggling with it. They're struggling with it. A lot of
Yeah,
folks don't understand how to let it go, and a lot of folks don't understand when it's time, and or you know you. That's why you had a little debates um, that like on the podcast is about who is LeBron is the GOAT and this and that. You know,
yeah,
everybody think the first thing somebody, well, when I was playing, when I was this, when I was that, everybody still live that. They still live on their dream, and. So you say it's a whole nation. It's everybody.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. We'll close with this, brother, to validate your point. Your point is good enough. A couple of weeks ago, my son started playing, youth league football, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and run with him. And the competitiveness came in, and I'm running with the kids, doc. And on the last, getting to the finish line, there's a thing called a hamstring, and it was
uh,
pulled.
yeah,
That thing.
yeah,
I said, you know what? That's it. I don't need to do this no more.
yeah. It's over with. You know, but it's in you. Competitiveness stuck in you. Is embedded in you.
But I agree with you, man. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure there's going to be a continuation, man, because
Yes,
you
sir.
made some points that we need to talk about again. Mental health is important. So thank you so much for sharing,
Yeah.
and yeah, man, we
I
will
appreciate you
catch up a
having
little
me.
later.
Yes, sir.
All right,
All right.
let me. Guys, that was Ray Jackson. Hey, we played ball together at Northwest Community College, year 2000. And it's important to catch up with former teammates, and to hear what he did at Albany State and went on to the Arena League to continue to play football, very successful. And then him talking about how he had to make that pivot once he had his daughter at 33, and how that changed everything. It's important, number one, to know when to pivot and when there's a need to change. So as you're listening to this, share this with a father, share this with your brother, your cousin, somebody, so that they can hear it. And you all have a great one.